My mom was into R&B heavy, like your Grandmaster Flashes, you know.
We was going into the studio to do Straight Out the Jungle. You know,
Finally revealed, the real story of the Jungle Brothers. But here's the twist. This isn't a tale of downfall. It's a story of survival, creativity, and resilience that still burns bright today. Right now, the Jungle Brothers are thriving. Afrika Baby Bam just dropped a punk rock single called Break Our Bond in September 2024. That's right, punk rock. This isn't a group clinging to the past. They're actively pushing boundaries just like they did 30 years ago. And they're not just recording. Mike G, Afrika Baby Bam, and DJ Sammy B are touring hard, with dates booked straight through 2025. They've performed at Radio City Music Hall and the O2 in London. Their live shows mix old school hip-hop and house music, drawing crowds from boomers to zoomers, all bouncing together. This is a group that never stopped working, never stopped creating, and never stopped fighting for their sound. But let's rewind and tell you how we got here, because the story of the Jungle Brothers is both inspiring and heartbreaking. Back in 1988, three guys from Harlem and Brooklyn changed hip-hop forever. Michael Small, known as Mike G, Nathaniel Hall, who became Afrika Baby Bam, and Sammy Burwell, DJ Sammy B, formed the Jungle Brothers. They didn't just make music, they created a movement. Their debut album, Straight Out the Jungle, was unlike anything hip-hop had heard before. It was positive, Afrocentric, and wildly experimental. Afrika Baby Bam's name tells you everything about their mission. He named himself after Afrika Bambaataa and the Universal Zulu Nation, a group committed to spreading positivity and African culture through hip-hop. The Jungle Brothers believed music could be smart, conscious, and fun all at once. They blended jazz samples, hip-hop beats, and even house music into something completely fresh. Their biggest breakthrough came with I'll House You, a track they made with producer Todd Terry. This wasn't just a club hit, it was history. It became the first hip house track recorded outside Chicago. They built a bridge between two worlds that nobody thought could connect. Hip-hop heads and ravers were suddenly dancing to the same beat. But here's where the Jungle Brothers became truly legendary. They didn't just pioneer a sound, they created a family. Afrika Baby Bam came up with the name Native Tongues, and the collective was born. This wasn't a record label gimmick, it was a movement of like-minded artists who wanted to make conscious, creative hip-hop. The Jungle Brothers were the first to release an album in 1988, paving the way for De La Soul, A Tribe Called Quest, and Queen Latifah. Without the Jungle Brothers, you don't get the golden age of alternative hip-hop. You don't get Kanye West, Outkast, The Roots, or Common in the same way. They laid the foundation. So if you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below and tell us, what's your favorite Jungle Brothers track? Are you team I'll House You or team Straight Out the Jungle? Let's talk about it. In 1989, Warner Brothers Records came calling. The Jungle Brothers signed to a major label, not because they were selling millions of records, but because critics loved them. Their buzz was international. Their second album, done by the forces of nature, dropped later that year, and it was a masterpiece. Critics put it right next to De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising. It made the Source magazine's list of the 100 best albums. Everything was clicking. The Native Tongues movement was exploding. The future looked unlimited. The album showcased everything the Jungle Brothers stood for. Complex lyrics, Afrocentric themes, jazz, R&B, and funk samples, woven together into something nobody had heard before. This wasn't just party music. This was art. This was hip-hop as a cultural statement, and it worked. Critics understood what they were doing. Fans connected with the message. But here's where things went wrong. Major labels and experimental artists don't always mix. Warner Brothers wanted safe, predictable hits. The Jungle Brothers wanted to keep pushing boundaries. After Done by the Forces of Nature, the group went back into the studio and created something bold. They called it Crazy Wisdom Masters. They brought in rock producers like Bill Laswell and David Williams. They wanted to fuse hip-hop with rock and abstract sounds, the same way they infused hip-hop with house music. This was the next evolution. Warner Brothers heard it and said, no. Not just no, but hell no, we can't release that. Executives thought it was too wild, too risky, too unorthodox. They forced the Jungle Brothers to re-record the entire album. Mike G later recalled that the original reels mysteriously disappeared during the mixing process. Whether it was sabotage or carelessness, the damage was done. The group's momentum was destroyed. Think about the timing. Between 1989 and 1993, hip-hop was moving fast. De La Soul and the Tribe Called Quest were cementing their mainstream success. The Jungle Brothers should have been right there with them. Instead, they were trapped in a battle with their own label, fighting for the right to make the music they wanted. 4 years passed. 4 critical years where they were invisible. When they finally released JB's with The Remedy in 1993, it was a compromise. The album had some conventional tracks to please the label, but it also had leftover experimental cuts from the Crazy Wisdom master sessions, like Spittin' Wicked Randomness. Critics and fans didn't know what to make of it. Some called the abstract tracks loud noise. The album flopped. It was their last release on Warner Brothers. That 4-year gap killed their commercial momentum. It created a ceiling they've never been able to break through. While their peers became household names, the Jungle Brothers became the unsung pioneers. But here's the thing, they never stopped creating. After leaving Warner Brothers, they released Raw Deluxe in 1997, VIP in 2000, All That We Do in 2002, and I Got You in 2006. They kept working, kept experimenting, and kept their sound alive. During this independent phase, they leaned into their European connections, working with artists like Alex Gifford from Propellerheads on VIP. They found audiences overseas who appreciated what they were doing, even if American mainstream radio ignored them. Then, in 2020, after 14 years, they dropped Keep It Jungle on their own label. Critics called it a return to form. It blended their 90s big beat sound with those classic native tongues rhymes. Fans called it an underrated classic. Songs like Afro-Kinetic showed they still had that magic touch, mixing eclectic samples with East Coast flow and genre fusion. One critic said it was the closest thing to a sonic statement they'd made since their inception over 30 years ago. But the commercial numbers told a harsh story. Most tracks on YouTube got fewer than 500 views. The damage from that 4-year absence was permanent. Without major label marketing muscle, they couldn't break through to a mainstream audience. But they didn't need to. They had something better. A dedicated fan base and respect from everyone who knows hip-hop history. Today, the Jungle Brothers make their living on the road. They tour constantly, performing at major venues across the world. Their live shows are legendary. They run through their entire catalog, from Straight Out the Jungle to Owl House You, and crowds go wild. Mike G commands the stage with confidence. DJ Sammy B works the decks like a master. Their shows prove that historical significance can drive ticket sales, even when record sales don't exist. And they're not just performing old hits. DJ Sammy B is working on Bush Camp the Mixtape, a project that's been 21 years in the making. Afrika Baby Bam is diving into punk rock with his solo project, proving that the spirit that created Crazy Wisdom Masters is still alive. He's also still making house music, releasing tracks like Get Out the House in July 2024. The man refuses to be boxed in. This is what makes the Jungle Brothers special. They never sold out. They never compromised their vision for a paycheck. When Warner Brothers rejected their experimental album in 1992, they could have given up. Instead, they kept fighting. Afrika Baby Bam's punk rock project today is proof that the major label system failed them, not the other way around. They wanted freedom to create, and now they have it. Their influence is everywhere. Every rapper who blends genres, every artist who prioritizes message over money, every musician who experiments without fear owes something to the Jungle Brothers. Kanye West wouldn't exist without them. Outkast wouldn't exist without them. The entire alternative hip-hop movement stands on the foundation they built. The Native Tongues Collective changed everything. It brought female voices like Queen Latifah and Moni Love into the conversation. It created space for regional styles through groups like Black Sheep. It gave us Busta Rhymes. And it proved that conscious hip-hop could be commercially viable, paving the way for acts like Black Star and Diggable Planets. All of that started with the Jungle Brothers in 1988. So here's the final truth. The Jungle Brothers are unsung, yes. They're underrated, yes. But they're also unbowed. They're still here, still creating, still performing, still pushing boundaries. They've built a sustainable career on their own terms, touring through 2025 and beyond. They've inspired generations of artists, and they've proven that artistic integrity matters more than commercial success. The Jungle Brothers didn't fail. The system failed them, but they outlasted the system. They're still standing, still relevant, and still pioneering. That's not a sad story. That's a victory. If this story inspired you, make sure you're subscribed. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about real hip-hop pioneers. The Jungle Brothers deserve their flowers, and we're giving them out today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.